Welcome back to another episode of the Aquademia podcast. I'm your host, Justin Grant.
And I'm Maddie Cassidy.
And in our first episode of 2026, Maddie and I are going to give you our 3 pillars on how you can eat more seafood this year without overthinking it.
Yeah, in the spirit of the new year, a lot of people's goals are trying to eat more healthily, get better routines, and we want to help you out.
But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone that if you want to contact us, you can do so by filling out our online form, which is located at globalseafood.org/podcast. We are on social. You can find Maddie and I on X. Just look for the handle at Aquademia Pod.
And if you enjoy this episode, then be sure to subscribe to us on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a rating or review.
And we'll see you at the end.
Welcome to the Aquademia podcast.
Our diet is hurting the environment in myriad ways. I mean, we desperately need to eat more seafood.
This is a pioneering industry with a whole lot of people who have really good ideas and a lot of experience and are unafraid.
Aquademia is your go-to podcast for a fresh take on all things seafood.
This episode is going to be a little different from our normal episodes. Today, it is just Justin and I. It's just your co-hosts here today. And we're really excited because we felt like it's been a while since we've gotten back to basics on Aquademia.
Right.
And we really wanted to just get back to why do we care about people eating more seafood and how can people integrate more seafood into their regular lives? So in thinking about that, we were like, January is just the perfect time to do a really focused episode on how people can eat more seafood.
So like you heard in the intro, we are going to focus on these three pillars that Maddie and I came up with on how you can integrate seafood into your diet in a non-pressure way. So like Maddie just mentioned, January typically is that reset season. You want the guidance, but maybe without all the pressure that follows it, right? If we go in and set unrealistic goals at the beginning of the year, so if you set the bar too high, which a lot of people do, they tend to fall off and aren't committed throughout the whole entire year. So if you fall into that category of, I know seafood is important, I'm not eating enough of it, I want some helpful guides to integrate more seafood into my diet without overpressuring myself, then continue to listen. Seafood is often framed as ideal for nutrition, but not approachable. Seafood is the primary dietary source of omega-3 fatty acids. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. And that is
Kind of the claim to fame of seafood.
Right. And it's very important. It is directly linked to heart and brain health. Replacing even one weekly meat meal with seafood can improve overall diet quality. So this episode is about reducing friction, not setting rules.
Yeah, in our conversations with a lot of consumers and also people just generally in the seafood industry, we hear over and over again that a lot of consumers feel confused or hesitant about eating seafood, especially eating seafood at home. And listeners want to do better, but they often don't even know where to start. So we are here to make seafood feel more understandable. So if you are a seafood person that knows a lot about seafood and you already know all the things we're talking about today, share this episode with someone who maybe doesn't know all of the ins and outs and needs an easy foray into eating more seafood.
All right, so let's get into our pillars, Maddie. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, pillar number 1, start small. Consistency matters more than intensity. One seafood meal per week is realistic.
Totally.
Right? So eating seafood just once per week moves someone significantly closer to the recommended 2 servings per week. Now, like I said earlier, if you start off with an unrealistic goal, it's more likely that you're going to fail. So if you're not eating any seafood right now, start with 1 meal of seafood per week. Research shows that habit formation improves dramatically when goals feel achievable, like I said, not perfect, especially with food behavior change. Okay, that's one of those behaviors that is more challenging to change. So you have to set those goals really, really small at first and increase them over time once you're successful with that small start.
Yeah, one thing that I like to think about when trying to eat healthier is instead of thinking about all of the things that you're not eating, like maybe you miss that one meal per week, think about all of the things that you can add and approaching it in a way where you're considering all of the new things, exciting things that you can add to your diet is a much more positive place to approach this from than thinking about all of the things that you're restricting yourself from, because we don't want this to be about restriction. We want it to be exciting and healthy for everyone. So another way that people can start small when eating more seafood is to focus on familiar species. So species that are native to your area probably feel a lot more approachable and a lot safer to you. So if that's going to make you eat more seafood, then that is totally what we would recommend. And once you find a recipe, like maybe it's a baked tilapia in the toaster oven, something super simple
And tasty.
and tasty. Once you find one successful meal, then that builds a lot of comfort and you can easily repeat it. And your confidence is going to grow a lot more quickly once the fear and uncertainty goes away.
All right, Maddie, moving on to pillar number 2, make it convenient. Super important. Time is really the biggest barrier. And I can speak from my personal life, which revolves around 2 young kids that are in multiple sports and trying to have consistency with mealtime and having healthy options ready when we're constantly on the go. Time is just one of those things that not everyone has. So where do you make the time, or how do you conveniently add, even if it's just that one seafood meal, into your weekly wrap sheet? We do this with frozen seafood choices. Maddie mentioned finding seafood species that are well known to you, but frozen seafood is frozen with all of its nutrition already packed inside. As soon as they freeze it, boom, it doesn't go away, which makes it a healthy option, convenient option. The instructions on how to cook it are on the bag. It is very, very easy. So that's how I solve that time crunch that I deal with as a very busy parent.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times frozen seafood gets a bad rap because it just seems like, how can it possibly be fresh if it's frozen? But like Justin said, a lot of frozen seafood is frozen within hours of harvest, which is locking in those nutritional benefits and the quality. Frozen and canned seafood are super valid choices when trying to make things convenient. And I think it's easy to overthink things if you're overwhelming yourself with all of the options at the seafood counter. So if you're just trying to make small changes, frozen and canned are perfect options. In thinking about convenience, another area that I definitely gravitate towards is seafood convenience products, which are like frozen fillets, pre-cooked shrimp, things like that. Those are really fast-growing categories in grocery seafood sales, and I think that that's a sign that points that we're going in the right direction, because that's helping make seafood a lot more approachable for people that would not really know what to do with an entire fish that they can get at the fish counter. So it might not seem as gourmet to get a convenience product like pre-cooked shrimp, but if it makes it easier and cuts down the time of your preparation, then I think it's totally worth it. Pre-cooked also removes a lot of the fear of messing up with cooking your seafood, because I think a lot of people can get sensitive and worry about cooking seafood at home because how do I know if I've prepared it correctly? So pre-cooked really removes that fear, which is helpful. And I think the overall thing to keep in mind here is, even if something isn't as acceptable or looked at as like the gold standard for nutritional or like fancy gourmet at home food, if it fits your routine, then it works. And that's what you should focus on. Curious how your company can compete for $200,000 in cash prizes in the F3 Fish Farm Challenge? Visit the F3 Future of Fish Feed contest website to review the rules and learn how to participate, whether as an individual company or as part of a team.
Learn more at f3challenge.org and take the first step toward feed innovation and your share of $200,000 in prizes. Progress over perfection. Pillar number 3. I really like this one because this allows you to kind of self-identify your progress. Perfection is often what stops people from starting, saying these are the goals, these are the dietary guidelines that you have to do in order to be healthy. And a lot of times, if you see those and go, well, that's not attainable, I'm out, right? So learning truly happens through action. And that is not only with changing your diet, but it can be changing your physical health goals. Anything you do, you have to take that first step.
Yeah, all those little things really add up over time. One thing that I think about when we're talking about progress over perfection is what are the things that can overwhelm people from trying to be perfect and trying to check all of the boxes that they think about when purchasing and preparing seafood. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is all of the sustainability messaging around seafood. And that can be really, really overwhelming with all the eco labels and recommendations from dietitians, and you need to get your omega-3s. So how can we simplify that noise and make seafood more approachable? Sustainability experts consistently emphasize that doing something is better than completely disengaging when it comes, especially to seafood choices. And a lot of consumers report feeling confused by all of the eco labels, which often leads to avoidance rather than making better choices or looking things up. It's easier when you're overwhelmed to just be like, this is too much for me. I'm tapping out. Kind of like what you were just saying about progress over perfection is like, it's easy to tap out when things get a little too much. So you don't need to know all of the answers at once. Learning one new thing maybe every month, maybe that can be a goal of like learning a new sustainability thing about seafood each month. That's a great goal to have. You don't need to memorize every eco label, everything on the nutritional information on the back of seafood packaging. Just figure out what your priority is. Maybe it's animal health and welfare. Maybe it's social responsibility. Maybe it's environmental impact. So pick something that you're really passionate about and maybe do a little research on the species that meet your preferences and then go from there.
So to tie this all together, Maddie, this was an episode that was specifically meant to be very basic. And maybe many of you out there have heard these similar pillars that we came up with. And really, from the high level perspective, it is don't set goals that are unattainable. Don't overstress yourself that you are not going to get to your desired goal or meet the outcome that you want in a short amount of time. You just need to take that first step forward. And I think the 3 pillars that we talked about really are the basic guides that you need to say to yourself in order to move forward with changing your lifestyle, right? And it doesn't have to be, again, these pillars that we came up with aren't specific to just how to integrate seafood into your diet.
It could really be used for a lot of different things.
100%. So remove the pressure from those resolutions. Encourage repeatable habits. Reinforce the 3 pillars. Seafood doesn't need to be complicated. I'm going to say that one more time. Seafood doesn't need to be complicated. Okay, so just really, really try to take a step back. And if you're one of those listeners that are saying, I'm listening to this because I know I've heard the importance of having seafood in your diet, I'm not doing it, and I want to improve, where do I start? What are the 3 simplest things that I can just focus on to try to slowly integrate more seafood into my diet? This was the episode that hopefully was going to get you over that hump and be able to move forward in the new year.
Yeah, I love that. I think another takeaway that I have is just encouraging curiosity and openness when it comes to seafood. Like, yes, find things that work for you, but also it's fun to try new things. Like maybe when you're going out to eat, you see a species that you haven't tried before, or a pairing of seafood with a sauce or a side that you haven't tried before. So just keeping that open mind with trying new things, because there's a world full of amazing seafood that everybody has at their fingertips. A lot of people don't avoid seafood because they dislike it. They avoid it because it feels complicated. So we are standing here, putting our flag in the sand and saying that we're trying to normalize learning by trying. It does not need to be perfect. Just find something that works for you and repeat that. At the risk of sounding preachy, I just want to refresh what the 3 pillars were to help you take those things away, put them into your daily life. So start small, pick something that feels familiar and approachable to you. Then, once you've done that, make it convenient. So make it something that you can easily repeat, make it something that maybe doesn't take a lot of time. Take advantage of frozen and canned options. And then the last element is to prioritize progress over perfection. You don't need to be a perfect seafood student and eating exactly 2 servings a week. If that's not realistic for you, then that's not realistic. Just integrating more seafood is good for you and also good for the planet.
We want to hear from you. If there are any of our listeners that took this episode to heart, were able to make those small changes in their life, and were able to integrate more seafood, please reach out to us and let us know. We would love to hear from you.
Or if you have tips of your own that you share with people, we would love to hear those too.
So folks, once again, thank you very much for listening. We want to remind you that Aquademia is on social. We are on X. You can follow us at Aquademia Pod. And again, if you do want to contact us, whether that's to give us your health-changing advice, have episode topics, you know a guest or want to be a guest for the show, you can reach us with our online form, which is located at globalseafood.org/podcast.
And if you want to stay tuned for all of our future amazing episodes coming out this year, we have a lot of really, really incredible guests lined up for the rest of the year, then be sure to subscribe to Aquademia so that you don't miss an episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Ciao.